I think, well, I know it got a lot worse in the last few years. I think at first there were kind of two worlds of anti-vaxxers, like somebody who's completely against all vaccines and they think they're the worst thing in the world. That's kind of one extreme, but I don't think that's very many people. I think most of it is just
Mhm.
people that are either more hesitant or have questions or did some research on it or just are not going in the same direction as the mainstream, like you said. And so they get put under that category. And I think a large part of it is that there's such a push to do jabs, to do shots, and there's such a financial incentive to do them that there's always a pushback on anybody that does research or discusses things in a different way, and that really culminated with COVID, where everybody just got shut down for even having an opinion, even though when those opinions were correct, uh, and you just weren't able to have a discussion. So I think that it morphed into something that's a lot more than it really was, and now I think is the first time where you're seeing some pushback where people are allowed to ask questions again, and you're not necessarily labeled as a crazy kook for asking a
Yeah.
question when really you just have a good question and it's reasonable.
So
Um,
you mentioned, I'm sorry, Ali, I just wanted to
Go ahead,
ask
Said.
one specific thing. So you mentioned one opinion that was correct. Is it possible to elaborate on that? Which one was it? Just so that we,
Yeah, I mean, there are many things during COVID that talking about transmission, talking about never getting sick, natural immunity not counting, like all of the big things that were initially dismissed, or even like how the disease started. Like, was it a lab leak? Was it in some sort of market?
yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if that was like definitively proven, but I think there's a lot more thought that it could be from a lab, which kind of makes sense. But either way, whether it's right or wrong, I mean, things were censored, right? And there was no
Yeah.
reason that you should be able to say something like, well, logically, if there's a place that's working on this virus and it happens to be that there's an outbreak right near it, that should be a logical possibility that it could have come from there. Like, you could be wrong, but
Right.
this shouldn't be something that's totally dismissed or you're like censored or deplatformed for asking that question or investigating it. Same thing with natural immunity. Like, why you should get a jab after getting sick when that's been the reality forever, that natural immunity works really well,
Hmm.
Right.
and you do have good protection, and anybody that did a science class knows that. Yet it was still pushed that you should still get jabs right after, which makes no sense. Like, it never made sense, and ultimately was proven that like every other virus, if you actually get it, and of course you have to not die, but assuming you don't die and you're okay after, then you have much better immunity than from a jab, which was always true.
Wow, you're bringing
Yeah.
me back to the COVID times. Like, I remember all the panic and chaos and all the controversial stuff you're talking about. And so when they said that, I heard like we all have to get the vaccine by force in order for us to get herd immunity, or else we're all gonna die. Was that is that real, or was that what was that? Can you help unpack that a
No,
bit
it's
for
it's not
me?
real. I mean, it makes no sense. Not for a respiratory virus. I mean,
Mm,
really, for respiratory viruses in general, that's not the case. There are certain diseases where herd immunity certainly can make a difference, and certain vaccines actually can potentially get you to the point where you reach a herd immunity, so your risk of the community definitely decreases. I mean, with smallpox, we see it with measles, but a lot of the diseases you can't actually do that, or it's really impossible with the vaccines that we have. They're not meant to stop transmission, so even if you get a shot, then you still don't necessarily protect anybody, or maybe you are a little more protected, but you can still pass it on. And certainly that was the case with COVID, where I mean, we saw it that you're told you couldn't pass it on, but then you could, which is completely reasonable because a lot of people are still carriers. Maybe you don't get sick from the disease or as sick, but you can still pass it to somebody else. We see that with
mm,
whooping cough. We see it with other like polio.
mm-hmm.
So it depends. Like, for example, the oral polio does stop transmission, but the one that we do now, the inactivated one, doesn't stop transmission. So you can still pass it on to somebody else. Whooping cough, same thing. So it's not always true that a jab can create herd immunity or stop you from passing it on to somebody. Many of the shots are built to protect you in theory, and minimize your risk of severe disease, but it doesn't really protect anybody else. So there is for many of the shots, no reason you need to do it from a community perspective. It's more if you decide that you want to do it, which is why, for me, especially when it comes to things like school rules, I mean, I don't believe anybody should be forced to do anything, and you should be forced to do them for school. But ultimately, for sure, you shouldn't be required to do anything that doesn't protect the other kids at the school. That doesn't make any sense. Like that should be something you're deciding for your own kid because you feel like you want the protection and you feel like the benefits outweigh the risks. So that's the way that I feel like we should be looking at these things. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that. They just think that, oh, if you don't give it for your kids, then everyone else is going to get it and you're going to be harmed to all the kids and my kid can't be around you. And that's not really true of most shots. Most shots just protect you if they do.